Here's a step-by-step guide to change this to this. This electric water heater is over 15 years old. With water on the floor and no signs of pipe leaks, it's time to replace it. Disclaimer: it is recommended that you consult with a licensed plumber and electrician in your local area. Let's choose a replacement electric water heater. First, let's note the tank width, tank height, size and lengths of the supply lines, and size and type of the fittings. Next, let's look at the tank nameplate and note the capacity in gallons, voltage, and maximum wattage. Use the noted information to select your new water heater with similar specifications. I recommend that you check out the online user manual and look up the electrical requirements. In this case, 5500 watts, 240 volts, 30 amp circuit breaker, and 10 gauge wire. Then verify the electrical requirements are met. 240 volts, 30 amp circuit breaker, and 10 gauge wire. I suggest getting various types and lengths of supply lines and return what you don't use. I plan to use the 18-inch long stainless steel lines, but the 12 and 15-inch copper flex lines worked better. Now let's replace the water heater. First, turn off the electricity at the circuit breaker. With the voltage detector, verify that the power is off at the unit. If there is a timer, I'll check it there too. Open a faucet on hot and let it run to cool the water in the tank. While waiting, note how the wires are connected. In this case, white to red and black to black. Verify again that power is off. Disconnect the wires and reinstall the wire nuts on the supply wires. Disconnect the ground wire. Remove the junction box cover and we'll reuse the electrical fitting. When the water runs lukewarm, leave the hot water faucet open and shut off the cold water supply valve. Connect the garden hose to the drain valve. Open the drain valve and drain the water to your lawn into buckets or floor drain. The open hot water faucet should help the tank drain faster. In this case, the drain is clogged. So let's try a couple of things. First, partially open the cold water supply valve to push through the clog. That didn't work. Next, open the temperature and pressure relief valve to let more air in. That didn't help either. So we'll need to let the water slowly drain until it is light enough to move. In the meantime, let's unbox the new water heater. The 55-gallon units were out of stock with a 2-week lead time. So we opted for the slightly smaller 50-gallon unit with the same electrical specs. 240 volts, 5500 total watts, and requires a 30 amp breaker. The unit came equipped with dielectric heat trap nipples, so I'll return the pair I purchased. The dielectric nipples prevent corrosion from the contact of dissimilar metals, and the heat trap feature prevents heat loss through the inlet and outlet pipes while the heater is idle. The top portion of the tank should be empty by now. So with the rag handy, let's disconnect the cold water supply line. And then the hot water supply line. The fittings will need to be smoothed and cleaned for watertight seals later with the new supply line gaskets. With the supply lines disconnected, the still heavy water heater was walked to the edge of the patio. And we finally got good water flow by removing the drain valve stem and clearing the clog with a small screwdriver. With the tank out of the way, clean the area. And as we wait for the area to dry, let's prep for the electrical hookup by removing the junction box covers and connecting the electrical wires to the cover with the fitting that we saved earlier. Let's also prep the discharge pipe for the TNP relief valve. The TNP relief valve is a safety device that will open when temperature and/or pressure are too high. A hairdryer might be helpful in getting the area dry to the touch. It's finally time to position the new water heater in place, and the fun part of hooking up the flexible supply lines. The flexible copper lines will work better in this situation and need to be carefully bent into shape. I find the gaskets sufficient for watertight seals. If you prefer, apply Teflon tape and/or pipe dope on the male threads. Then connect the supply lines hand tight. Slightly shaking the line will make turning the connectors easier. Verify that the lines are all properly aligned. And tighten with your wrenches. Tighten snugly, but don't over tighten. Take a few seconds to admire your handiwork. Open a nearby hot water faucet and partially open a cold water supply valve. Air from the water heater tank will bleed from the open faucet. Check your connections for leaks. If everything is good, fully open the cold water supply valve and continue filling the tank. When water runs from the faucet, the tank is full. Let the water run for a few minutes to empty air out of the tank. Open all hot water faucets to bleed air from the lines. Before making the electrical connections, verify that all water lines are connected. Check. The cold water line is open. Check. Run hot water faucets in the house to ensure tank is completely full. Check. Now the electrical connections. Attach the ground wire to the green ground screw. Using the previous connections as a guide, twist the wires together with wire connectors, black to black and white to red. Push the wires into the junction box and install the other half of the cover. Turn on the circuit breaker. If there is a timer, adjust to the correct time of day and turn on the timer. This unit has a power LED to confirm that power is on, and the thermostat was set to 115 degrees Fahrenheit. 120 degrees is normally recommended. It might take a few hours to initially heat the water. Let's install the downpipe for the TMP drain line, point to a drain if possible, and take a nap. After heating, verify the correct water temperature and check for leaks over the next few days.